I'm India Collins. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I work across a variety of platforms, but my current focus is on textiles. I grew up in a really creative family, surrounded by a multitude of arts, so I've had a lot of different influences over the course of my life. I think one of my early influences with fabric was from my mum's textile collection that she had brought back from her days living in India. So they're really exotic silk saris that were, like 8 or 10 meters long and had gold and silver threads woven through them. So I had this ability to experiment. She had an old Singer sewing machine, and I made clothing, I made hats, I made shoes. But ultimately, I think exploring textiles for me was a real exercise in resourcefulness, and that I feel really underpins my practice today. I feel like fabrics really hold a lot of history. I find them really philosophical, broad in their meaning and in the meaning that they can convey depending on how they're being utilized or manipulated. I work with transparency. I like to work with ripped edges. I love the texture, the different qualities, and I really try to harness those qualities in the production of work. It's almost like taming the untamable. I started to explore weaving in the sort of in a sort of object design sort of context, because the colors and the textures for me are really appealing, visually appealing, and I feel that often textiles in their simple sort of woven form, they need further transformation to have a level of interest and sort of whimsy. So there's a crossover between design and art. This particular project, the VULVA lution exhibition, really started about 5 years ago when I was asked to mentor for young women who were in high school. It was sort of teaching about the importance of maintaining an arts practice. Through that process, I guided these students through the production of work and created my own work in the process. Each year I produced a new work for the Flame project, and what I realized was taking place in the process of making these pieces is that I was actually telling my own story. And I was telling my story in the public space, hard stories that I struggled to articulate with words. And so I found a visual language that was very particular to me, that was, that expressed an aesthetic that appealed to me and that kept me in curiosity and kept me seeking and looking for new ways to convey this message and share a message that I realized was the message, was an experience that a lot of other women have had and continue to have. So most of the weaves, all of the weaves are made from recycled clothing, and I started to pick clothing based on color and texture. They're clothing that's been worn by women, and so they carry stories and histories that are really important. Whether this shirt was worn to empower someone or make them feel sexy or attractive, or maybe they wanted to feel invisible. They create a tapestry, basically, of stories that are imbued within each piece. The process of making these works is quite labor-intensive. My work is really evolutionary, so I start out with the seed of an idea, but I never end up where I originally think I'm going to start. I always end up all the way over here. So this is just a starting point. There's a process involved, and it's creating strips from a garment. So there's ripping involved and sorting. I try to use every part of a garment so that the work becomes like a zero waste work.